This is a Shrimps Trust podcast. All news and all views expressed in the podcast are those of the contributors, not necessarily those of Morecambe Football Club.
Yeah, 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 yeah. God, I believe me. Blessing in the land is Morecambe FC. Has gone to see me. Blessing in the land is Morecambe FC.
Well, hello. It's time for another Shrimps Trust podcast. So welcome along to ShrimpsNet. Joining myself and Joel this week, we have two esteemed guests, one from the boardroom and one from the recruitment and coaching staff. You can guess who that one is, can't you? First of all, our first guest, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see he's got a rather small badge behind him. It's the rather wonderful Charlie Appleyard. Welcome along, Charlie.
Hi, Freez. Hi, Joel.
Hi.
And also now we have, as I've already said, recruitment guru and coach, recently acquired by the Shrimps, thanks to Mr. Stephen Robinson. And I will give you a quote from an unnamed Motherwell source. He's a workaholic with an encyclopedic knowledge of the lower leagues of English football. Welcome along, Martin Foyle. Thanks for joining us, Martin.
No problems at all. Yeah, nice to be invited. Thank you.
So we'll start as we mean to go on, Joel, and Charlie and Martin. That gorgeous summer's day at Buxton in the FA Cup second round. Talk me through it, Joel.
I know. Well, I get up in the morning and it's like 9 o'clock, 9:30. And I'm seeing all the Morecambe fans getting on the train and having a good merry time on the way to Buxton. I'm not able to go because of my knee, so I'm thinking, I'm a bit jealous. And then watching the match, the rain's hammering down, and seeing the players tweeting after the game that it's the coldest they've ever been. Yeah, I didn't actually end up feeling very jealous. But no, it was one of those. I think the weather was so bad. I think it was never going to be a game where we could really, or any team could really, put on a dominant kind of sparkling, we're the League One boys kind of display, because the weather was just so cataclysmically awful. But like at the end of the day, we created quite a lot of really good chances. Cole managed to miss an open goal, which to us, he's been due one. He's been due about this with some of the goals he scored this season. And then obviously Ayunga's put through on goal and isn't able to put it away. I think there was a McCallum chance in the first half. So really, we've had a load of really good chances. It wasn't a pretty performance, but ultimately we won the game. We should have won by more. They didn't really have a sniff after they hit the post and had those nasty corners and didn't really get any big chances. So while it wasn't pretty, the weather conditions were the main reason for that, and we got the job done.
So, Charlie, were you there enjoying the Derbyshire hospitality, or were you watching from home?
I was watching from home, Freez, because I didn't have sign-up. I've got signed for 6 out of the next 7 games, so to make it 7 out of 8 would have been a bit difficult. But all I can say is that I know it wasn't a bigger victory as people were expecting, but David Seaman's cheesy grin on Monday evening said it all, and that's why we wanted to win the match to get in the draw, which I know we're going to talk about later, but job done. Well done.
Yeah, and Martin, presumably as recruitment guru and coach, you were keeping an eye on the proceedings. Were you there, or you sat at home in a nice warm, like me, sat at home in a nice warm lounge watching it?
No, I was actually out watching another game, but I did go to Buxton probably 10 days prior to that and watch the game, without nobody knowing I was there. And, obviously I was feeding back to the manager and the coaching staff, how they set up and play. But also, it's not too far away from me. It's about 45 minutes. But let me tell you now, you're going up and up and up. And it feels like it's on a hill. And I said, manager, just be careful. It's going to be absolutely freezing there. Gale force winds. The pitch is on a slope across as well as down. And it's a potential banana skin. But that's why the cameras were there, weren't they? You know what I mean? So they revel in all that. But it was not an easy performance in such horrendous conditions. Probably, when I've actually seen it back and speaking to some of the players, it's probably the worst they've ever played in.
Yeah, I have to say, it's a pity the cameraman didn't have a rag that he could wipe the camera with. Because
correct.
When you see the replay of the goal we managed to score, and it's sort of like Cole going through a fog, and you don't realise it's him. But I suppose at the end of the day, we can't really complain. Buxton had their day in the sun. As Martin said, the cameras were there expecting hoping for a cock up from the League One side. But it still doesn't sit easily with me, Joel, being the big team, because I'm used to being on the opposite side of it, being Northern Premier League, Conference, etc.
I know, it's quite a funny sensation. It's the second year in a row as well, with having Malden and Tiptree last year, which actually in many ways was quite a similar kind of game. I think, we had a lot of chances and we only put one of them away. But, it's a funny sensation, but, we've just got to get used to, and hopefully we will keep getting used to with these quite nice FA Cup ties we've been getting recently.
And I'll come to Charlie now, because obviously I was otherwise engaged on Monday. I was going to pick a member of the family up and didn't realise that the draw was actually going on. I thought it was about 7:20 and didn't realise. And I got a phone call off my son-in-law, and you can imagine what he was going. He was screaming down the phone as I was driving. My wife took the call, and I was like, "Oh my God!" What was your reaction, Charlie, to Spurs away?
Check my Twitter account. I think I put a video of me and my sons cheering, going crazy. I mean, we were talking about before we started recording that last year we played Chelsea, and I was lucky enough to be there. It was a very strange experience.
It was
with no fans there. We actually did really well, and Lampard played the best team possible. Derek said that as soon as the team sheet came out, they knew they were up against it, because Lampard was on his way out when he played. I think it was worth £383 million. The team was worth. Now it was a great day, but very strange. And now we're obviously a year later going to a brand new stadium with high expectations of. We're back in our usual position as the underdog.
Yeah. Which is
probably more comfortable as. And we're going to the amazing new ground and see what happens.
And just for generally, this is for everybody. Obviously, the FA Cup in many people's eyes has been undervalued, because obviously, if you finish sort of like 8 in the top 10 in the Premier League, you still get a lot more money than you would if you won the FA Cup. But for teams like Morecambe, it can provide something of a lifeline, and also an extra injection of very welcome cash, particularly in our position, Charlie.
Well, what it does, Freeze, and is, which I'm sure people are aware, the money we'll get from the Cup will provide a buffer that maybe be able to provide some extra funds for transfers, or maybe we can just do more stuff. And people, the Buxton win and the draw of Spurs just cements our progress to be the sustainable club that we want to be. We want to be the grass training pitch, the training ground, all these things we need to do. If we got to, if we were lucky enough, what is going to happen? If we got to third round of the FA Cup every year and drew Spurs, Arsenal, Leeds, Liverpool away every year, not going to happen. Not going to say it's going to happen, but if it did happen, it makes it a lot better. We spoke to a number of different clubs during our research for the 3-year plan, and most of them had got to, their FA Trophy final. They got to the fourth round of the FA Cup 3 or 4 years in a row, and it really helped them kick on. And Martin can, buy a couple of players for, a low fee and sell them for 10 million. That's the plan. I'm sure Martin's going to talk to you about later.
Yeah, no pressure, Martin.
No, not at all.
So look back at this is the 5th time as a club, and obviously the 2nd time as a league club that we've got into the 3rd round. And if you look at who we drew, we got to the first round in 1962-63, and we drew Weymouth. There was only 2 non-league clubs in the 3rd round, and we got drawn at home to Weymouth. But we've been in the 3rd round 4 times since, and we've had Ipswich, Chelsea, and Tottenham. So we're not doing so bad, Charlie. It could happen that if we keep getting through, we could end up with Leeds, Liverpool, Arsenal. We could collect the whole set, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. I don't know if you're watching the draw, Joel or Martin, but Liverpool had already gone, Arsenal already gone. So the clubs, the Premier League teams, in Shrewsbury got one of them. So our competitors were getting the good draw, and you're just thinking, what's going to happen? And but then it came out, and it was amazing. David Seaman, by the way, was a brilliant guy to have on the ball. He was so excited, wasn't he, Joel?
Yeah, I mean, what more can you want in an FA Cup draw than David Seaman's chuckles.
Yeah, he was absolutely loving it. He really wanted to when he drew out. He was like, yeah, fantastic. Get him on again.
Yeah, definitely. So, looking at that, the fixtures have been chosen for the TV. So we're presuming we are going to be Saturday 3:00 as it stands, Joel.
No, that's not true. It's not true. I need to let you know. That's a piece of news to you. So that you might assume that, but there's actually 16 other televised games going to be going on at different times away from 3:00 on Saturday.
Right.
There's a good chance it will be 3:00 on Saturday, but I'm sure you were. I was quite disappointed looking at some of the games.
Yeah,
United Villa's on 20 times a season.
Exactly.
Anyway, mustn't grumble, but we're going to find out in the next couple of days. I think it's tomorrow. By tomorrow afternoon, we'll find out the other 16 games that are going to be on iPlayer, Red Button, at different times for broadcast, international broadcast. So I've seen people on social media this afternoon saying that it must be 3:00 on Saturday, but it might well be, but there's 16 games it won't be.
Well, that's why you're here, Charlie, to give us that update. And I did use the word presume, because I obviously we still don't know. But I mean, no matter what, how many tickets have you had any word from Spurs yet? How many tickets?
I have actually got an email from Spurs, but I can't tell you what it says. But, let me just have a look at the email. Let me just ask me a question.
Talk about yourself, Joel. Will your cruciate ligament allow you to go to Tottenham?
Yeah, I'm very much hoping so. It's been giving me a good little goal for physio, so I'm going to be absolutely hammering that out. I mean, it's 6 weeks after the operation, so I should be fine. I hope we are. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back.
Here we go. Go on. Can you read it?
We've been given 4 options.
Yep.
Of varying capacities, which we need to choose from, which we'll take advice on what we're going to do. The numbers are quite good. I can't say too much, obviously, but the prices are quite reasonable.
If you're watching on YouTube, this might well be already out there, so you'll be able to tell what he says.
Yeah, so that's very good price. There's a family ticket as well for 2 out of 2 juniors. They're playing in white, and we'll take advice. Mick Horton will make the decision, I'm sure. But there's a good level of tickets there, and they're already being very, very hospitable and giving us lots of help already. And the email's really, really long. It shows to me they really care about giving us a good experience. They've already congratulated us on getting this far. So it's exciting. It's very exciting.
I wonder if you'll be nice when we've knocked him out. Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not on drugs, but I'm full of FA Cup fervour, and why not?
Derek did say to me last season that I think with Plymouth, they drew with Liverpool, didn't they?
Right. Yeah, they just
they drew 0-0. I don't know if they played at home or away first, but they got a replay, and it made the club a lot of money. So even if you could miraculously get to a draw. I then saw on Twitter again. I put the battle of UK's best striker, Cole Stockton and Harry Cave. We can maybe get some more money from Martin Foyle, which I'm sure the rest of the time I want to speak to him, not me.
So we'll move on now. And we've had happy times talking about Buxton and the FA Cup draw. I can't gloss over the Sunderland. I obviously 4:15 set off, expecting a storm over the A66. Nothing. Got to Sunderland, got a bit windier, but no real rain or anything like that. And I thought, my prediction. I'll bore you with this one. In the car on A66, I think we'll lose 5-0. And I am never right, and that's why I said it. And then on the way home, we were on the A66 again, and one of the lads in the car mentioned, "Oh, hang on, the test match starts at 12 o'clock." And And I said, well, by the time you've dropped me off and you've got home, we'll be 12 for 3. And they got it and texted me, we're 11 for 3. So I'm going to have to buy a lottery ticket this week. But,
Comes in threes, doesn't it?
yeah, exactly. So, thank you, Martin. My wife looked at me like, you're mental, but there you go. So, yeah, I am the worst tipster in the world. I said 5-0 and 12 for 3, and I was one run out. I'm like, oh, come on. So, looking at that, Joel, I think, Stephen was very famously said, well, nobody's hammered us yet. Well, they have now, because that was pretty poor on the night. They were good. I have no hesitation. They moved it really well. The movement off the ball was not something we've had to deal with as good as that. And some of their first touches were lovely. But once they got 2-0 up, we were chasing shadows.
Yeah, there's no trying to pick it apart. I think the crux of it is they played really quite well and they're full of very good footballers, and we just played really quite badly. And and when that happens, you sometimes get a bit of a pasting. But that's how it goes. Unfortunately, I think like Stephen said, I don't think, even though there's been results like the MK Dons one, I think on the balance of the game, we weren't kind of cut through. But on the balance of this game, although we had those good couple of chances with Ayunga and Wildigan, they go in, momentum and whatever. But at the end of the day, there's no point in reminiscing on that. We didn't play very well. They played very well, and they kind of cut through us. And it's one of those. Stevens admitted it was a bad performance. The players have come out, and O'Connor was saying on his interview after the game, Greg Lee's referenced it this afternoon. When previewing the Portsmouth game, they all know it was a bad performance. So, that's the first place to start, isn't it? Acknowledging it was a bad performance. Hopefully they'll be able to pick themselves up from it and can move on and go again Saturday.
And we go again Saturday, and to go from the Stadium of Light to Fratton Park, it just shows you how we've come in a short space of time, doesn't it, Charlie?
It does. I'm sure Stephen and the guys will be for reaction. I'm sure Martin can fill us in. What's been going on with the training ground and mode in the camp? Martin has been a bit
no, they've had their team meetings and obviously unit meetings, and obviously I'm privy to it, which is nice. But the players underperformed, and sometimes you have to accept that, as much as you don't want to. But I've watched the coaching, everything. They were prepared for the game. But unfortunately, we're making one or two individual mistakes, and it's costing us. So we've got to cut them out. And if we cut them out, then obviously we're looking sort of like later December for the games against Fleetwood, Bolton, and also Crewe, Doncaster. So it's an exciting month for Morecambe. To slide our way up that table.
And I'll allude to that. I sincerely hope that happens, because obviously I always think it's the test of the management and people like yourself, how well you can prepare the players to pick them up after that. It was quite dispiriting. They looked fed up. There was only 4 or 5 that came to clap the away end, and everybody else just trudged off like, oh crikey! I
don't think players do that deliberately.
No, I wasn't having a go at it.
No, I just think sometimes players get embarrassed with their own performance, and they just, the last thing they want to do is go over. And then sometimes when you say you've lost 5-0, we've all had big defeats as players, and you go to the fans, you get more stick than you want to appreciate them, say thanks for coming, which is obviously a big part of it. Yeah. But you do get some stick back, and sometimes players would rather keep out the way and keep their heads down and hopefully turn up again come Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Ipswich game the other night. I think one of the players went over to the fans and to give him a clap, and then starts getting hold of the piece and ends up getting a bit of a Barney with one of them. So you see why some players just I've never been a footballer, but you get in the headspace after that 5-0 defeat, and I can see why some of them just want to think, I want to go in, I want to be inside, I want to just get away from it, because it must be very dispiriting.
But also, like you said earlier, it's amazing where Morecambe have come from in a short space of time. Going to places like Sunderland, Portsmouth, Wigan. It's endless and it's relentless. Now, I think as a managerial team, we know we're going to lose so many games, but do you get downhearted, or do you wait for the games? We know who the bottom 10 are going to be. Probably at the start of the season, I think we could have guessed who they were. So not saying there are cup finals, but they're the ones that you can't afford to lose, and they're the ones you've got to try and gain points off of. And as you can see, there's 7 or 8 at the bottom there. And I still think if we win one in the next 2 games, or even 2 in the next 3 games, you drag another 3 or 4 into it. So nobody's cast themselves away, and people always look at the bottom 4 and you're thinking, oh, it's negative. But as you saw from last year in Division 1, and obviously I've been at Northampton and heard the stories that all the teams, how many wins you pick up late when the pressure's off, and all of a sudden you can start to climb.
Yeah, and I'm a sort of fairly positive person. I always think if we happen to, we tend to create chances in just about every game we've played in, and that was such at Stadium of Light. And it only takes one of those to go in at Fratton Park on Saturday in the first 20 minutes. And having been to Fratton Park a couple of times and scored an early goal with Morecambe, we've come away with decent results on those 2 occasions because we've scored an early goal and then defended, and the Fratton faithful will turn on them. And all it takes, that sort of builds your confidence again, doesn't it, Martin? If you're a goal up and you're thinking, right, we can do this now, Correct.
But the old, it's still an old cliche that still will never go away, that if you can keep the big clubs quiet for the first 20 minutes, actually Sunderland, the game prior, were actually booed off at half-time.
Yeah.
So you knew they were just waiting to hunt them down and to have a good moan at them. And the same's at Portsmouth. Things aren't right. But like you say, that first goal, nobody expects Morecambe to get anything there. But, the way we've set up in training today, and the attitude of the players, they were listening to everything, But I think 1 or 2 people have questioned us in terms of leaders and vocal and pulling people around when the going gets tough, and you could actually feel that in abundance today on the training pitch, that everybody was talking, pulling around and having a little moan at each other, which is healthy in the right way. And things look really, really good today.
Well, that's a positive note on which to end with the Portsmouth predictions, and we can put Sunderland to bed, thankfully, now. And I'll come to you, Martin, now. Thanks for coming on.
No problems.
You've had a long. I put my glasses on here because I've got to look at your stats, because I obviously did some research. Obviously, Southampton as a youngster, Aldershot, then Oxford, and then Port Vale paid a record fee for you. And I read, and the Port Vale people just think you're one of their gods. You're in their all-time 11. How does that feel?
It's special in a funny, strange way. I started off at Southampton. I was there. I was actually a bricklayer for a year and a half. Caught the last year of an apprenticeship, and probably had about 4 years down there. I made about 15 first-team starts. And honestly, you know your players, but to actually play with the likes of Kevin Keegan, Peter Shilton, Alan Ball, they were all down there. Fantastic pros. They're a bit of your idols. Probably felt a little bit uncomfortable, when you're actually changing next to them and you're training with them. But you learn so much. And the likes of just, you look at Kevin Keegan, absolutely fantastic ambassador for football, in terms of his fitness regimes and the way he prepared and looked after himself. So I think a lot of that actually rubs off on players. And that's why you see the top boys now. They're machines, aren't they, in every walk of life, and they are 100% role models for the up and coming.
And really Keegan was one of the very first, wasn't he? Really, he made the most of what he had. That's not being unkind,
But he actually cleaned his boots as well, so he actually realised, what he did, because sometimes we'd be in and doing jobs as we were still sort of like first year pros, which we had to do in them days, which wasn't a problem. But yeah, you go in and like I said, to go and clean the sauna out, and he'd be in there pumping press ups and stomachs, sort of like late afternoon, all on his own. And he actually did say that. He said, look, I'm limited, but I've got everything else to give, and that. And you went, well, the respect of the person was absolutely phenomenal.
So I'll come back to it. You glossed over the all-time Port Vale 11 that I mentioned there. That's got to be a lovely feeling, hasn't it? And obviously you ended up coaching there, and then you ended up becoming first-team manager. So you've spent a lot of time at Port Vale, and they do appreciate you, which must be lovely.
No, it's a nice area. We've always enjoyed it. The kids are settled. But it's a good football club, and probably more so now. There's more money there now, the direction of the club's going. So, which is nice to see from the outside. But yeah, I was there. I was settled. But sometimes, when you have children and that, and the kids are at school, sometimes you're thinking, no, I'm better off being here than elsewhere. Obviously uprooting all the family. I did have bigger offers to go elsewhere, but family man, and I enjoyed the area. And I thought, no, I'd rather be happy than being somewhere that you might not start, you might get involved in, and everything that goes along with being a professional footballer.
Well, that's a nice, we have so many people now, and it's not a criticism, but Morecambe have had loads of players who've just come in, done a season, done pretty well, and earned themselves a contract somewhere else and they always plead it's a short career, which I suppose it is. But moving on, when you got the Port Vale job, did you find that was really, really useful? You being in a situation where you knew the club inside out because you'd been there, like part of the furniture.
Yeah, it was. Well, I was actually youth coach for about 18 months.
Yeah.
So I always think a youth team coach is a mini manager's role, so you're actually preparing your own team, how you want to set them up. So you're actually getting into the coaching side. But I was taking them, and Brian Horton was obviously manager with Mark, who was assistant. And I'd be on one pitch, he'd be on the other pitch. And he used to keep whistling me over. He said, come and show the strikers what to do. Tell them where to run. Tell them what to do, So I had a good affinity with the players because I was really in retirement, come out to play a few games. And, we kept the side in the championship the last 10 games of the season. I got involved, So it's some funny stories with it. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed, being there. But because I was close to the players, it was actually quite an easy turnaround. Was I managerial material? Obviously, people thought that was in me. But I had respect for the players, and I think the players have respect for me, and that's probably why it works so well.
And then moving on, obviously, you must have been managerial material. You had some excellent times, particularly at York City, didn't you?
Yeah, no. Again, it was a beautiful place to live. I was out the suitcase probably 6 days a week. And the missus and the kids were at home. But sometimes you got to do that in football, and it was never a problem for me. But they were rock bottom of the conference, and again, it was a rebuild job going in there. We managed to get to the trophy final at the end of the first year. I went there, I think it was December, and it was a case of, can we stay up? We stayed up, which was we thought we would. We had enough in the building to actually get round it. Got to the trophy final, and then I cleared probably 70% out to bring people in. And I brought some really, really good lads in. Didn't really spend a lot of money. There were some local ones and boys from Leeds. And for some reason, and sometimes it happens in football, you can't say it was meant, but the characters, they got on well together. We managed to get a house together, and 5 players who lived in the house, and it just went on and on and on. And we did really well. We had good cup runs and got to the playoff final. But unfortunately, we lost out to Oxford, who were probably at that time a long way ahead of us, probably 3 years in terms of everything that was going on. So they had 40,000 there, we had 8,000. So you can imagine half of Wembley absolutely chocker and yellow, and my old team as well. So it was disappointing to lose that way, and sometimes it's very, very hard to bounce back after a playoff defeat.
So moving on, you've come to Morecambe as head of recruitment. And I know that's possibly from the Stephen connection, because you did a great job with them at Motherwell. And obviously you're partly responsible at least, for the recruitment for Northampton, who were doing well in the division below us. So what made you get into that? Was it just a case of, as I said on your intro, that you've got an encyclopedic knowledge of the lower leagues? It
actually stems from being a manager. Did I have anything on the recruitment side when I managed? No. So like I said, it was Division 1 football, and it was very surprising that it was very, very limited. I had somebody that was helping out. But if I didn't get off my backside and go to games and get out and watch live football, you wouldn't know who the players were. So I was probably thrown in at the deep end. But we just missed out on the playoffs to the last game of the season, my first year. Then I thought, I'm going to lose a few players. And again, everybody at that level, when you haven't got a lot of money, the turnaround of players is absolutely phenomenal. You know what I mean? But you got to get used to it. You got to accept it. Sometimes it's hard for a manager, because you do get disillusioned. You got a good team, and then next year you lose 3/4, and then here we go again. You know what I mean? So it does take up a lot of time, recruitment, for the manager, especially if the managers are heavily involved in the transfers throughout the summer, which I know Stephen certainly will be.
Yeah, it's a strange one, but I mean, from your point of view, does this, because obviously you're getting involved at the coaching side with the Shrimps, does that still fulfil you?
Oh no, 100%. It's my main focus, and trust me, it is the January window. Nothing to do with coaching or anything like that at the moment. Because January's huge for us. You know what I mean? So obviously, I've been out to as many games as I can, going to the right games, because I know some scouts can go to games just for the sake of going to it. No, I've got to have a purpose. Whether it's 200 miles away or whether it's 20 miles down the road, there's always something behind it, or this player's available, he's falling out with the manager. And yeah, that's the info, which is so and so important that you can find out, and then you've got to take advantage of it.
So living fairly central, that's quite useful then, really, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And people think, Stoke-on-Trent, I'm about 2 miles away from Junction 15, although the M6 can be a bit of a nightmare at the most of the times. But no, it's fine. It's a good commuting link, and then I go A50, I can get straight onto the M1. So you're up and down the country, or I like to handpick my games. Plan it a week ahead, what I feel is best for the club and what we can find.
So presumably, you've got quite a nice, comfy car.
I need to with my back and knees. My gosh, I'm not getting any younger.
Right, now I've had the little chat. I'll put you on to the Witchfinder General in Joel now, who's got some questions for you.
No problems.
Thank you very much, Freeze. So yeah, obviously you'll have your discussions with Stephen about what positions need filling, what kind of player you need. But when you've had that discussion and reached that point, what's your kind of starting point for finding the player? Do you go to contacts or look at data, and then once you've kind of got that starting point, where do you go from there?
Well, we have two windows. You have the January window, then obviously the summer window. The window you find is not more relaxed. It's easier. It's not so you get pressurized into making quick decisions. But the January window, let me tell you now, is a very, very hard window. Everybody's shopping at the same time. It's everybody are trying to do everybody to get players in. You all find that they're after the same positions, whether they're centre halves or strikers, and you find that what player comes available come January, it's usually a player that's had his injury problems. He's probably fallen out with the club. He hasn't played many games. He doesn't want to be at the club. He could be a bad egg. You know what I mean? There's so much information that you've got to find out. And that's nothing to do with data or anything like that. That is just personal characteristics, which obviously we've got to make sure that we bring the right ones, to Morecambe. It's absolutely huge, So that's my template. And then obviously now I've sat down with the manager and sat down with Dermot and John Mack, and we've gone, right, okay, what do we need? So whether it's a goalkeeper or a left winger or, a striker, I've got to work off what they want. Then obviously with Charlie and the board, what finances are available. And then it's a case of, right, okay, let's make a few phone calls. Let's see what's available. Because obviously we know we've got a certain selection of clubs that are around us. You've got the Prestons, Blackpools, Fleetwoods. I know Fleetwood aren't going to do any favours because they're in the same league. We've got the Manchesters, we've got the Everton and Liverpools, with the younger ones, which obviously at the moment we'll probably stay clear of this window. So we need a little bit of experience. Then obviously wages, contracts. Because some of the boys their contracts might be up at the end of the season. And people think, you just take them on loan. But they go, well, I'll come on loan, but I want next season as well. So there's a lot of negotiation and haggling to do with the agents, to say, well, if he comes in and he plays 20 games, then there's an option of a contract on the table. But we just can't, we can't afford to make too many mistakes. You make mistakes in recruitment, trust me, and recruitment now is starting to become a little bit more favourable with clubs, because I thought some clubs weren't interested in recruitment, not interested at all. But now it's starting to become a big topic now, and it's starting to come back to what it should be. Because when I was with Stephen up at Motherwell, he would actually sacrifice a player for a head of recruitment, because it takes so much pressure off the manager, the phone calls, and all the agents and all the rubbish and the talk that comes through. It can take days.
So with the phone calls and all that kind of stuff, because it sounds like you've got to have your finger on a lot of pulses and kind of really know what's going on. So for that, I imagine you've got to have something of a big contact network. So when you're working your way through the game, how do you kind of go about establishing that kind of reliable and presumably quite expansive contact network?
Well, that probably comes back to when you first start management. I think if you always treat people with respect, they'll always pick the phone call. But If you're the other way, I guarantee football's such a funny industry that people won't oblige and answer your phone calls. So no, I like to think I've had a lot of respect for people and vice versa. The network builds obviously through your playing days and coaching days. And then you come into the recruitment side. The recruitment side is so different. People, you turn up for your first games, you're thinking, oh, where do I sit? Who do I sit with? You see a lot of these probably senior people around the tables. You think, no, I'll go and sit and I'll talk to anybody. But you get in amongst them and everything. They pass the cards over. I work for so and so. A lot of people like to wear their club coats, which I'm not a favour of when you're scouting, because I think it shows that they're here, they're what, so you're tipping people off really. So I always go in my own disguise, and I like to sit amongst people. I love the listening, because a lot of people talk, which is very, very good. But that's where you get your information on players, is when you go to live games. You don't get it anywhere else.
So that actually follows in quite nicely to my next question, which is lovely. So I was going to say, how much kind of research and due diligence do you ideally, now obviously this can't always be the case, but ideally would you like to have kind of done on a player before signing, so like X amount of games or like X amount of kind of character references or something?
No, the character reference now is bigger than ever. Absolutely bigger than ever. And I totally agree, because you only need 2 or 3 bad eggs in a group, and it can fester. Then you've got to try and deal with it, so I know how Stephen works, and obviously Morecambe themselves, they don't want bad people to portray the club in the wrong way. So yes, characteristic is absolutely huge for me, then obviously it's who's out of contract, because some players' contracts might just run up to January anyway. It's not always to the end of the season, so some players do sign short term, then you look at the players and, have they got the experience for the league, but trust me, what comes at the end of it is, what are the wages, what's the length of contract, and do the agents get paid? And that usually comes to the top of every conversation, you know what I mean? So obviously agents have a big say in what goes on. I know a lot of agents work for clubs, which is something I don't think I'd advise, because I don't think it's the way forward, because you end up taking all their players and then it goes pear-shaped, so it's all that. But data does come into it. Obviously it comes down to once you've got a selection of, say, 5 for each position, then you start to whittle it down a little bit, and I speak to players, people think, oh, you don't, but my job, I can speak to players, what I mean? So I want to know, do they want to come and play for Morecambe? Do they want to live in the area? So there's a lot of inside information. They might have young kids at school, and I'm thinking, well, he'll be up in a hotel all week, here soon, he'll start well, but he'll soon fade away. So there's a lot of information that I like to gather myself. And then I go to the manager and say, look, this lad wants to come. He's really, really keen. He wants to put himself in the shop window. We have the attraction of First Division football. I know Stephen's got a big name, in terms of coaching, or obviously alongside with the coaching staff, make players better, sell them on. So Morecambe can be a very, very good platform for a lot of players. So that's probably where I'd start, but there's still so many unanswered questions that as you go along, you're thinking, okay, right, this, that, and something new crops up every day.
So you obviously kind of touched a little bit on it there, but one of my questions was going to be, what are the kind of biggest pull factors and maybe the biggest challenges in getting players up to Morecambe? Well,
first of all, like I said, it was Division 1 football. Then I'd probably go, the manager's got to be the biggest pull, because the players have got to play for the manager, So if the manager, if I'm doing the wheeling and dealing and I bring somebody in for the manager's not going to like it, the player's not going to like it. So I do all the talking with the player and the agent to start with, and then obviously then it's up to Stephen and the coaching staff to sell the club, what they do, how they coach, and so that's important. But I think the area is important. I think we want players to come into the area. We don't want boys travelling 2 hours, to come into training, because it's not healthy, and we know then that injuries can happen and everything like that. But Morecambe's now got this name of being a family club, which I think is a big enticement to a lot of people. But also, I think it's a great stepping stone for younger players. So whether it happened this window, this window is a horrible window. It's a hard to predict window, you know what I mean? But come the summer, it opens up a different array of players and a different way of how to approach things.
So with this window, I think I might be being a bit presumptuous here, but is this window kind of more about short term getting people in the door to fix immediate problems, and then maybe the summer window is maybe a bit more about long term planning.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think Charlie knows, but long-term planning probably at the moment has not even been mentioned. I've sat down with Harry, the analyst and everything, to what we're doing in terms of player reports and match reports and everything. Like I said, we'll sit down at the end of January and we're planning for what we need for the next year, 2 years or whatever. But I've got to concentrate on January. I don't want to miss anything, you know what I mean? Because we know we're going to get players that we think are so close to signing, and then someone's going to jump over the top of us at the last minute, and off they go down the road for an extra £100, so we know that's going to happen. But, I've been doing this. I've done recruitment really with not a lot of money. So I'm used to being sort of like getting knocked back, but you stand up again and you go and find the next one.
We all know there's one objective this season, and that's where we've got Martin to come and help us achieve it.
No, yeah, definitely, and just finally, are there any clubs from around the EFL that stand out to you as doing recruitment particularly well, and what do you like about what they do?
Well, I think Northampton have been brilliant.
Motherwell and Northampton, brilliant.
So no. Obviously, I enjoyed my time at Northampton. Good people and everything, but no, they've done very well for themselves. But obviously, the coaching again goes hand in hand, and like I said, they're sitting pretty in second of the league. But if I look through honestly, I think Cheltenham have done very, very well over the years in terms of getting loans in. The right characters, younger ones as well, and they bedded them straight into the first team. Obviously, they come up with us last season, but also, they've actually kicked on, which is very, very good for them. So that's a different thing in terms of loans. Then I look at Sutton, who've come into the league. Now, I thought, are they going to change their profile of their player? But no, they've kept in with the non-league players. They've gone with men, 6 foot plus. So I actually like that, and fair play to them. They've done absolutely excellent in their first season. I wouldn't be surprised if they do cement a playoff place, because I think they're actually a decent side, hard-working. So, again, you could hit that non-league route. I do like Forest Green. Forest Green were probably a little bit similar to myself at Northampton, where they hit the Scottish market, which is a little bit untapped. But I have a lot of scouts and people come to me, what's Scottish football like? And I keep saying, well, just go up the road and have a look. They want to have a look at the English games, but I wouldn't give them too much information on Scottish players, because I think it's a market and not too far away from Morecambe as well. So Forest Green have done very, very well with the boy Aitchison from Celtic, who was at Celtic, went Barnsley, taking a couple of midfield players, and obviously Nicky Cadden, who we had at Motherwell. So you look at them and you went, well, they've done very well. And then on the other hand, you can have a buy situation where you're actually buying with potential to sell on. And I'll probably look at Oxford. I think Oxford have done very, very well with that. They bought the boy Elliott. I think they paid about 175 grand for. They bought the boy McNally from Ireland. So all those things, they've all gone different areas in different ways. But I like to have a little bit of everything, if you want the truth.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Martin. Really, really insightful.
No problems. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Actually, you don't mind me asking one more question. How do you kind of see the role of the academy at the club and kind of building that up?
No, I think it's important that Morecambe have homegrown players, and obviously Tom Bryan, who does the academy of recruitment, was in before I came. I've had some really, really good positive chats with him, and obviously Stuart and Neil. And it's important that we actually start kicking that off and getting boys through on a regular basis. So I know the wheels are in motion in that respect. But obviously Stuart's got his allocation for this season. So it's exciting times, because obviously we've got to pick off the bigger clubs, because we know that's where I did it when I was at Port Vale. You take off the Evertons, the Man Uniteds, the Burnleys. So we've just got to make sure that we're hands-on and we actually see what's getting released.
That's very interesting, yeah.
So, I mean, from our perspective, Rod and I met Martin, I feel like age ago, didn't Martin, now? Long time ago. It's probably not that long ago, but it feels a long time ago. But we were really, really impressed with the way he is, the way he carries himself, the way he's obviously, as he's into today. And he's got a very special relationship with Stephen. They got on really, really well. But like we've always said all the way along, he's the head of recruitment of Morecambe Football Club. We want to have a long-term vision to bring people through the academy, through player sales, through developing people. And Martin is a perfect fit. And I mean, talking about a general manager, a head of recruitment, chips, and all the other things we've added to the experience. And Martin's a key appointment, probably the most key of all the appointments we've made, as well as the general manager. Martin was talking about the training ground experience there. And I've been a few times this season. Whenever you go and see the training to the university, John Martin will back me up on this. Dermot and John and Barry and everyone and Stephen make it. Everyone feels so welcome. Facilities are so good, and people really. If I was a player going up there and met those guys for the first time, I'd want to play for them. So if Martin get people up, that'd be great. We do have long-term plans for the future. I was going to say, but we have to keep them on hold for now. Martin's job at the moment is working so hard to bring this successful first League One season to fruition, hopefully, and we can look at future player sales and developing people and the permanency of the job in the future. But when's the window open, Martin? 1st of January?
Yeah, 1st of Jan, yeah. If they're in the offices by then, in the FA. They usually have New Year's Day off.
yeah. So good luck with you, my friend, and we are absolutely delighted to have you on board.
Thank you very much.
We're all on wind down to Christmas, but it's not going to be like that for you, Martin, is it? Because obviously January it all kicks off and everybody's going to be looking at you going, go on then, what have you got?
Yeah, it's never changed, because when you've been brought up in football, you always have that Christmas period, and go back to whether it's the olden days, but we played a lot more football over Christmas period, and that's what it was. It wasn't celebrating Christmas. You'd have Christmas for the kids, but I'll be thinking, I don't want Christmas dinner because I'm playing Boxing Day. And sometimes we played two games in 2 days over Christmas, So, but you've been brought up on it, and it's no different, So Christmas is in the background, but because I've got 4 grandkids and that, I've got to make sure that you're around at the right time, and then I'll sneak off out the back door and off to a game.
So you've got to get them bigger presents, or a bigger box to play with, just to keep them occupied.
I certainly will do.
So, Charlie, come to you now. Any boardroom action? I know. We said last week and the week before, we keep mentioning the cover behind the goals and the barter card. That's coming on, isn't it? I noticed some people.
That's coming on. Yeah, we've got a bit more hospitality. Space for creating some more space in the hospitality to get more people through. We've got the investigation about the Sunderland antics on Tuesday night. Can't comment on it at the moment. There's an investigation going on with Sunderland. We know there was various people in the away end causing trouble, frankly, and we're not. If they found that to be Morecambe fans, we're going to come down them like a ton of bricks, and they're going to be punished accordingly. But the investigation's ongoing at the moment. But I think it's worth mentioning that we are looking into that. We're going to be looking at don't say it, away travel for the Spurs game. We've got things going on at the moment.
That's a podcast in itself.
Yeah, so we don't need to talk about it now, but we'll look at that. And then obviously, like I said about the Spurs timings, that's TBC, but everyone know about that. And obviously, try and get people. The Portsmouth tickets. This is not our doing; it's Portsmouth's prerogative. But tickets stop being on sale at 12 o'clock on Friday at the club shop and online, and you cannot buy a ticket on the gate at Portsmouth on Saturday. So if you're planning to drive to Portsmouth without a ticket, it's a long way, you won't get in. So please do buy a ticket before 12:01 on Friday lunchtime.
Hopefully this will be available to people Friday morning, if Joel's as prompt and as organised as he always is. So fingers crossed that people will be listening to this and thinking, oh God, I better switch this off and go and get one. So
the final thing I would say, Freez, is that, I know we say a lot, but, we've got so much to look forward to. Martin says, obviously, we've got some big games coming up. Let's get behind the lads. I know, the MK Dons game, Joel and I were speaking about it. I actually thought we played quite well.
We did. That wasn't a 4-0.
No.
That wasn't a 4-0. It could have easily been 2-2, but that's just the way things go, isn't it?
Yeah, but so let's forget about Tuesday, move on and get behind the lads on Saturday, and then there's some big home games coming up, and Martin's predicting some big wins there, which is good.
Well, we want the points on the board, don't we? We know the Crew Fleet with Doncaster at home are huge games, and you turn Bolton over, and they're back in it. So I think a lot of people are looking over their shoulders at the moment, and like I said, it's just like you say, you make sure that the fans are behind the manager and the team. Come them games over the festive period, and hopefully we can come up with some rewards.
There's a lot of points to be picked up there, isn't there? And we all know there's some strange things happen at Christmas. You play sort of 4 or 5 games over that period, and you come to the first week of the new year, and luckily we're in the third round of the FA Cup. But there's some strange things happen over Christmas, and you end up. There's people who were 15th end up near the bottom, and people who were 21st end up 14th. It happens every season, Joel.
Yeah, like we've said, lots of points to be played for, and just the way the fixture list has gone and how the table's panned out, just so happens that a lot of those games are against teams around us. So hopefully a lot of points to be picked up, but a lot of ground to be made in the right direction, hopefully. It's amazing.
It's amazing come that Christmas period, though. How many players amazingly get suspended? How many players get injured? And how many players get ill over the Christmas? So you'll find a lot of teams will have a lot of shuffling of their squads. You know what I mean? And that's why there's probably some shock results come Christmas time. So I know ours won't go missing. So we just hope that some of the other teams we play that they might have 1 or 2 out.
We noticed one of our longest serving players, and I think Joel knows who I'm going to be talking about here, but I won't mention his name. Kev Ellison. Sorry, what? Kev used to get to early December and be on 4 yellows, and then he'd behave himself until about the 17th of December, and then he'd get the 5th yellow. And I was like, he'll be with his kids on Christmas morning and suspended for Boxing Day. Damn.
Sorry, David. I just thought of another thing, which is very important. The COVID protocols moving forward, probably in place for the Fleetwood game onwards. We've had a number of emails this afternoon from the EFL and the FA about COVID procedures. Can't say what they're going to be, but it's obviously going to be a bit more tight than it was. People will probably need to have. I don't know if this for sure, but if you want to come and watch, I would definitely make sure if you've not been jabbed, you need to have the negative test for proof. If you have been jabbed, you need the vaccine passport. Easiest thing to do. I don't know if anyone's done it. If you're listening and you haven't done it, there's an app on your phone you can get which carries your passport with you that shows you've had your jabs. And do make sure you've got enough tests in your house to make sure you can test yourself to get in, because I think it's going to get tighter and tighter to try and keep everything. The last thing we want is to get behind closed doors again. So please do conform to the protocols, no matter how much you may or may disagree with them politically or ethically. If you want to come and watch the mighty Shrimps, we need to obey the law and the COVID principles. So please do read them in detail, make sure you understand, and if you have any questions, contact the fan liaison officer. And
most importantly, don't blame the club, because the club have got to implement this. We've got no choice, have we, Charlie?
Oh, no choice at all.
Well, I think we've had. I've tried to keep that as light as possible. Thank you very much, Martin, for your input. That's been really, really interesting. Charlie, as usual, valuable stuff coming out of the boardroom. Joel, your intelligent questions, where me, I'm just chat and talk rubbish. That's just one of those things. Join us next week when we can, and I say this every week, just because one week it will happen. Next week we'll discuss our fantastic away win at Fratton Park. And look forward to the Fleetwood game. And hopefully Charlie will have somebody on from the boardroom and somebody on from the playing or coaching staff. Martin, thank you. Charlie,
no problem at all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Joel, brilliant as always. Thanks for joining us. This has been ShrimpsNet by the Shrimps Trust. If you're not a member, please join. Have a great week.